and heard these 2 shots rung out, but that wasn't it. But a woman screamed. I thought, my God, they shot the King, shot Prince Charles. It was sensational. They used to say Dianamania, they called it at the time, and it was Dianamania. Everywhere we went, this woman was just sensational.
Welcome to a special edition of the Sun Show Royal Exclusive, where we have travelled all the way here to Sydney in Australia to cover the King and Queen's royal visit. I'm Matt Wilkinson, Sun's royal editor, and with me is Arthur Edwards, the Sun's royal photographer. Arthur, I worked out that you've been to Australia on 31 occasions, and my mathematics tells me that that is actually the amount of miles it takes to travel to the moon, back to Earth, and back to the moon again. Can we talk about some of your finest memories? As I say, you've covered the King and Queen out here, William out here. What are your best memories from all these visits?
I suppose the best memory of all is when in 1983, when he came with Diana and his son William, and of course it was the first time ever a royal child had travelled on a royal tour. So it was a first, and on a few occasions we saw William, and it was really added a great bonus to the tour. And of course Diana was a sensation. I can't promise you, this opera house here, when we came there with Diana, they couldn't get any more people in. The crowds were huge, and they came in an open top car and they were throwing flowers at her, and I remember one bunch of flowers hit her on the head and she ducked and pulled a face, but kept smiling, and the people just loved her, and they loved her so much that we only took pictures of her because you couldn't send a picture back to London without Diana was in it, and that tour for me was by far the best. And people tell me that Charles never loved Diana. Well, I remember that tour, and they were very loved up. They were very tactile and very hands-on, and they just looked at each other with great love. So for me, that was a magnificent tour. You took
many pictures of that. What was the atmosphere like at for instance, the Sydney Opera House? I remember that the crowds were hundreds deep, weren't they? Oh. And what was the atmosphere like?
They were packed. You couldn't get another person in there. The tension. They all came to see this beautiful bride of Prince Charles, and she just absolutely threw herself into the job, and not only just here but Brisbane. They had to close Brisbane. They couldn't get any more people in there. This woman was a sensation. In fact, I remember one press officer once saying, "Would someone please take pictures of the Prince?" I said, "We can't. If we take pictures of the Prince, they'll bring us home." And of course he made a speech about that later, wishing he'd brought 2 Dianas with him, because both could walk one either side of the road. But that was a great tour. But before that, during that tour, there was a great incident where he went swimming in Bondi Beach, and we all went down there. All the photographers from London went down there, and this was some great stuff. And he had a quite trim, good-looking guy, Prince Charles, in his shorts, and he bouncing in and out the surf. We got some lovely pictures. And I promise you, he did that quite often. In fact, in 1979 when he did it, and I wasn't there for that, a model, Jane Priest, ran into the surf and kissed him. And people said that was a stunt by the British newspapers. Well, I can't possibly comment.
There's so many iconic moments, aren't they, from Australian tours. What are you most looking forward to this year? I mean, you mentioned about the King swimming at Bondi Beach. We're not going to get the King swimming at Bondi Beach this year, are we? So.
Well, also, the Opera House. They're going to light the Opera House up on Friday night, showing pictures of recent tours with the King and Queen, and of course his mother. The last time Queen Elizabeth came here was 2011, and people then sensed that this was going to be her last visit, and the crowds for that was huge in Brisbane, 30 deep. Everywhere she went, the crowds just absolutely turned out to see her. And the King now, he's coming. The trip's not a long trip. We know that he's been recovering from cancer and getting treatment for cancer, but he's still come all this way to do that. And that's something for him. Australia is important to him. He went to school here. Part of his schooling was here, and he's been coming. I think he's come 18 or 19 times. I think this might be his 19th time to Australia. So, for me, coming to Australia, I had to come. I wanted to come here to see him as our King, coming to see the Australian people.
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit about what to expect on the tour a little bit later, hopefully, if we get to that stage. But There was also other incidences when Charles has been here. I mean, I think pretty sure you were there. You must have been there that day when shots fired out on Australia Day when Charles was on stage about to give a speech. Can you talk us what happened there, memories-wise?
In Darling Harbour, and I was walking back to get ready for to go and take my pool pictures, and I heard these 2 shots rung out, but that wasn't it. But a woman screamed. I thought, my God, they shot the King, shot Prince Charles. I run round the front there and I saw a big pile of bodies on the stage. I thought, my God, he's under that. And I jumped up on the stage and this policeman threw me off. And as he threw me off, I saw Prince Charles standing there, sort of adjusting his cuffs, smiling. He obviously, was calm as a cucumber. But what was amazing there, the Premier of New South Wales then, John Fahey, he tackled the guy and stopped him. And incidentally, this guy, David Kang, was people said he was a Cambodian refugee. He wasn't. He was actually an Australian, and he went on to become a solicitor and now practice law in Sydney. Amazing. I think he got 500 hours community service.
Oh wow!
Yeah, so there you go.
But he was very lucky because it wasn't a real gun, was it? But it was quite a huge moment. It was a
cat fistful. I was up all night, hovering up, getting anyone that had a picture of it, sending pictures all night long, buying pictures, getting them back to London. I think we started and finished early in the morning, and then we got a bus and went to somewhere up country to do another tour with Prince Charles. He was pretty relaxed about it all.
They're quite hectic, these tours. I mean, these trips for us are quite busy, but also for, back in the day when you come out with the King, that he'd be packing in 8, 9, 10 engagements a day. Yeah. Well, what are your favourite moments, or what are your favourite pictures, maybe, of the King's previous visits here to Australia?
Well, one particular picture I like is when they went to Maitland. It's a town up in the middle of New South Wales, and they went to a park, and it was a very warm day. And there was children performing, and he looked at the princess. He put his hand on her hand, and they smiled at each other. And I thought it was the best picture I did on that tour. And as I say, when you come with the King, or come with any member of the royal family, even the most innocent, boring job could produce a great picture. And that's the attitude you have to come with every day. This is where I'm going to get a great picture. When the Queen was here, I remember the last day in Perth. She was walking through the park there at a barbecue, and the Duke of Edinburgh got some flowers off a child and gave them to the Queen, and they smiled at each other like they'd just got married. It was just an amazing moment. So, I think of it often about those pictures when I look at them, and when I do talks and I show these pictures, and I'm thrilled to talk about it, especially that one in Maitland, because that was such a precious moment. That was the moment when you saw this couple were genuinely in love, and I do believe that. The bonus on that trip was, of course, they brought William, and so what happens on Monday to Friday, we would be in a different state, and on the Friday evening they would go to be with William and spend the weekend with William. And so we had the weekends off, which was nice because we needed them, because the trip was intensive. I mean, every week flying to a different state, and this country is vast. And of course we got to see William a couple of times, and it was absolutely beautiful. And the best picture of all was when they got off the plane in Alice Springs, and I got this cracking picture of baby Charles and Diana, and Charles is pointing at me at the camera, and I sent this picture to London thinking I was going to get big praise from the picture editor, and I rang in and said, "Did you get my pictures?" He said, "Yes." He said, "But a fly landed on him. Have you got the picture with a fly landing on him?"
That always happens on tour.
Always that happens.
You do the whole trip, and then suddenly someone rings you and says, "Oh, there was a picture of this,
That's
or this
right.
happened."
A fly landed on him. Did you get a picture of the fly landing on him? I suppose the reporter had filed it, and they were looking for it. But that's just where, that's the thing. It's highs and lows. But the highs are when you see your pictures in the paper the next day, thousands of miles away, and the readers are sharing them, and it's a good feeling.
Well, I promise I won't try and stiff you there and file copy without a picture, and vice versa. Don't you send pictures without telling me about the story?
Oh no!
As we
If
do
any
it.
flies drop on, if any flies come on Camilla, please tell me before I send the pictures. No, it was just I've never forgotten that, and it was. But William was a star, but we did get the weekends off, which you needed them, because this tour was 5 weeks we were here. It was a long while, and then we went to New Zealand. So every state we covered, and up in Alice Springs it was so hot. I mean, people lived there. When we went to sort of Queensland, it was hot, and it was just but they just never you never show any signs of it. Our king, I mean, I promise you, I've never seen him ever get into a sweat. You know, when he wears a suit and tie, and he just does it all, and he never seems to have a problem with jet lag. He's an amazing man, and we're all sort of struggling and moaning about, and we're not getting any sleep, and he just gets through it all. It's just tremendous.
But it's not too hot now. Where people back in England are probably cursing us standing in here just in a jacket without a tie, but it's pleasant weather for the king. You mentioned earlier about William coming over but he then did that with George. A few when George was a similar age, and that must have been a wonderful tour to see William, Catherine, and baby George. What happened there?
Oh, that was 9 months, same age as William when he came, and we got some nice pictures. We're getting off on the planes, but they went to. Remember, they took George to Taronga Zoo.
Yeah.
And he played there, and he had a wonderful time. Bubbles going, and he had his little bilby and a great set of pictures come out. And unfortunately, I didn't take them because only one person was allowed in there. But it was a great set of pictures. And we saw him. I saw him coming off the plane. I saw Catherine and William at the Opera House. I mean, they were so up for it. You know, I got these pictures of them coming down the steps of the Opera House in the background, and they're laughing right into the camera. A great picture.
What was the? We talk about William and Catherine. Obviously, you know, Catherine is a star. Compared to when Diana was here on that 1983 tour, was it a similar kind of atmosphere?
I don't like to compare the two because it's unfair. But Diana was a sensation. Diana was, I think, 23, something 22, 23. She looked $1 million. She had wonderful style dress sets, and the people, you know, they just couldn't see it. When, you know, remember. The crowds would be like 10 deep, just them doing a car journey, and you'd hear people saying, "Look at them bludgers behind, like that's us in the following on the bus. Look at them bludgers," you know, like we're just trying to do our job, man. But you know, they just wanted to come and see her. She was the one, and while, you know, even though a prince would be walking along in a walkabout here in Sydney, the people would shout for Diana to come across to them. You know, and of course she couldn't do that, and. But it was sensational. They say Dianamania, they called it at the time, and it was Dianamania. But everywhere we went, this woman was just sensational. She just embraced the whole thing. She got involved with everything, and talked to people and squatted down to it. I've never seen it like before. The royal family just seemed to be breaking all the rules. You know, laughing, joking, shaking hands, and literally making a fuss of children. With children, she was fantastic. And similarly, Harry was the same. When Harry came here just 36 hours. He came to review the fleet here in the harbour, and we were on a boat with him here, and the fleet sailed by. And I remember someone said to him, "Well, you know, why can't you stay longer?" And he said, "They don't give you that much time off." And I thought, that sounds a poor excuse from the royal family, but he did. And of course, and then when we drove across, we went a boat across the harbour to Admiralty House where he was staying. That was a nice trip too. But William and Catherine that was tremendous, but it wasn't as long. You know, it was over, I think, 10 days. Charles and Diana, it was 3 weeks here and 2 weeks in New Zealand. It was a long tour.
I spoke to a few people, been out here for a couple of days, acclimatising and enjoying some of the finest hostelries that Australia has to offer. And a lot of people I've met have said they're looking forward to the King and Queen coming over. But they've also mentioned, you know, we'd like to see William, Catherine, and the children. Why is it so important, do you think, that for the King to come out here? He's been out here many times. You've been with him all these times. Why is it so important that he comes here right now with Camilla, then it all goes well?
Well, before, when he came, he was always represented the Queen, represented the head of state, represented the monarch. Now he's the monarch, he's the head of state. And this coming, I think, Australia being one of the main members of the Commonwealth, and where he is the king, he is head of state here, he is their sovereign. They believe in the constitutional monarchy. So, you know, but he's come here, and it's not a very long visit. But the people will see that he's made a great effort to come and see them, and I think that means a lot. And there's a big feeling in this country now that perhaps there'll be another referendum where they will ask to say thank you very much to King Charles, but we'd like our own president. Well, you know, looking at the polls recently, that's declined. That went from 45% down to 33%, 35%. So people's attitude, and the King coming here will sort of put that Republican mood to bed.
I think that's a really interesting point you made there about the effort that the King has gone to come here, because we reported front page back in April that the King had said, I'm going to go to Australia. This was just a couple of months after his cancer diagnosis, and he put it in his diary. He said, I'm going to Australia, and they, in many ways, the last couple of months they've kind of almost tried to hold him back for his own benefit, because he's raring to go. It is a short trip. We've got a rest day, which is sensible. First day after he arrives, he doesn't go to work. He does go to work straight away. He has a couple of meetings at the airport, a cup of tea, I think, with some local dignitaries. You know, a nice little welcome at the airport. Then he has a Saturday off. How important, firstly, do you think that Saturday is off? Because look, it's a long trip for us to come all the way out here. But what more importantly, what are you most looking forward to taking pictures of on this trip? What will people see that to remember from this trip? Are you hoping?
I want to see. Well, really, I don't care what jobs I get. I want to see him. I want to see how he looks. I want to see him engaging with the people, and I want to see him laughing and joking and making people laugh, making people feel happy, because he might have cancer, but he's not letting him affect his mood. So he is got it right in his mind. He's going to be cured of this. And as the Queen said to me once, if only he'd do what he's told, he would probably get better quickly. But listen, he is coming here, and he wouldn't come here unless he was going to give it 100%. Now that day's rest, I've never known him ever have a day's rest before, and I've never known him ever suffer from jet lag. If he suffered from it, you'd never know. But maybe his doctors have said, when you go, you rest. And I think he's probably doing, as Camilla said, doing what he's told.
Finally. Well, that kind of is interesting, because you had those some of the premiers from the States, Western Australia, I believe, are not sending their premiers to meet him, and I think that's a little bit rude, just because the effort that Charles has gone into this. He is going to pack a lot in. These days are actually going to be, there's lots of things in Canberra, and there's lots of things that he actually has to do. He has to go to the War Memorial, he has to go to the Parliament building, he has to meet the New South Wales Premier. There are certain things that he actually has to do now, as you pointed out. Now he's actually the King rather than the Prince of Wales. It's very. It might not look as glamorous or have the kind of gimmicks that other tours have. There aren't trips to the zoo or anything like that. You were talking about George, but it's just very important constitutionally that the King actually comes here and carries out a good job.
I think that's right, and I think the fact that he's going to be seen by many people, and not just here but in Canberra as well. And the fact that it will be reported, I mean, the papers are already full of it, their programme and everything. I mean, there's quite excitement about it. And I think, look, this man is making a great effort to carry on, to be the job he's been 70 years waiting for, the biggest, longest apprenticeship ever. And, he's been unfortunate with this illness, but he's not going to let it get him down. And he's going to do his very best. Now, he's got to listen to the doctors, obviously. But he's going to make his own mind up to do things, and he made his own mind up to come to Australia, and he's here, and I think people will be grateful for that and appreciate that.
One person we haven't touched on massively yet is the Queen. Of course, he's got Camilla with him by his side. We said that she's very, not concerned, but she's very supportive of him. She makes sure that he's not working too hard, often asking him to slow down. You have a great relationship with Queen Camilla.
I love her.
What are you looking forward to on this trip?
Sorry. I've got one lovely pool with her where she's in Sydney, and I'm looking forward to that. No, I really enjoy working with her. I mean, I've never ever when I've got a job and I know I'm going to travel 200 miles to go and cover an engagement with her, I've always looked forward to it, because she gives her very, very best. She's never lost a common touch, this lady. She's just always gives her best, and she always leaves people feeling much better about themselves and also about the royal family. And she's got a gentle, kind way with her, and I think that's wonderful. And of course, most important of all is she supports her husband. She's totally here. She'll keep her eye on him, and if he's playing up, she'll say it to him, and she won't be shy to say, look, take it easy, calm down.
I know you don't like comparing. We don't want to compare Catherine with Diana, but how do you think Camilla will fare on this trip? Is it a time for her to shine as the person supporting Charles? She's got her own project. She's got lots of other things solo trips she's going to do.
That's right.
What kind of impact could Queen Camilla have on this trip to Australia?
I think some, but obviously supporting the King. Him coming here is the most important thing. I think she'll just support him. She'll do her own engagements, as she always does. She's got her own patronages, some things she passionately cares about, and she'll pursue those. But when she's with him, she'll, as always, just stand back a little bit, keep his eye on him and watch him, and of course support him and support the monarchy and be a great ambassador for our country, which he has been. I mean, you've got to bear in mind this woman never took this job on until she was middle 50s, and she's embraced it and she's run with it, and she's done, in my view, a brilliant job.
Okay, excellent. Well, look, there are already a lot of people in Sydney. People are talking about it. People are waiting to see the King and Queen. I was given this by a friend that I met in a pub, which is a $2 $2 with Charles's face on the back. These kind of coins with Charles's head on, they've been passing, through people's hands in Australia. I'll give you it, you can have it. But finally now people will actually in Australia get the chance to actually see that man that's on the back of their coins.
Right, yeah. Well, there I'm pleased about that, because the Queen used to be on the $5 note, and I notice he's not on that. Well, probably not yet, and I don't suppose he will be, but he's on the coin, and that matters. And this is the dollar coin, and this is the currency of the country.
Yeah.
Well done. I think you should have it, Mac. I think
I'll have it back. I'll keep it. Thanks very much.
Yeah.
Right, well, thanks for watching our first episode of Royal Exclusive in Australia. There will be plenty more to come as we cover the whole tour.